Hey guys, so this is my vlog 3 for my global learning project that I am doing for my TE 150 class. This vlog is based on my second interaction with my partner, George. And for this interaction, I gave him the complete ability to choose what he wanted to do. And he decided he wanted to teach me how to create a traditional Chinese meal that he would often create in China with his mom. So for this interaction, him and I ended up meeting up at the Union. He picked me up there in his car on Tuesday, November 27th, sorry. I didn't know he had a car, so that was a shock to me. But he picked me up there and ended up bringing me to the local Chinese grocery store, which I personally didn't even know we had around here. I'm not from around here, but I didn't know that. But he told me that he thought it would be good if I saw it and tried to compare the differences between the two, which was cool because, I think he really cares about what I'm learning here. So we went to the store, and he told me to look around and try to compare it to like a Stop and Shop or Kroger or Meijer. The store was called Oriental Market. It was on Grand River. It's not too far. So we got there, he brought me inside, showed me around, and the first thing I really noticed was in terms of quantity of food they sell, it's a lot more than you traditionally see in a Meijer or a Stop and Shop or stuff like that. They sell bags of rice in like 4 pounds, and tofu in 2 pounds, stuff like that. We didn't buy any of those, but that's a lot of the options they have. So I took some pictures inside. Traditionally it looks the same. There's all the tofu. They stockpile a lot. There's George. So after we went there, we basically got in there, picked out what we needed to get. He didn't want to tell me what we were going to making. He wanted that to be a surprise. So we got most of the ingredients there. And then what I didn't expect at all, we decided not to get the meat there. According to George and all his friends there, a lot of the Chinese students don't buy their meats from a Chinese grocery store. He said that they're a lot fresher in areas like Meijer and stuff like that. So we ended up going to Meijer to buy the pork, chicken, and eggs. And then we headed over to his apartment, which is about 10 minutes off campus, and began preparing the meal. So when we got to his apartment, we unpacked everything and started talking a little bit. We talked about what we were going to be making. He talked about how him and his mom cooked a lot together when he was growing up. His mom doesn't work, which I didn't know, and that was a really strong connection for me. My mom didn't work growing up. I cooked a lot with her. His dad's in marketing, I believe, or merchandising, one of the two. My dad's in consulting, but he grew up, really connected with his mom. Same with me. So that was pretty cool. So after we talked a little bit about growing up, cooking, stuff like that, we began making stuff. And the first thing that I really noticed about cooking was a lot of the dishes they use, especially traditionally when I cook with my mom and stuff. It's all about, using new pots, new pans, cleaning everything, making sure everything's sanitary. With him, he'd mix raw meat in a pan, set it in another pan to fry up, and then in that pan he'd throw raw eggs. And it wasn't, I guess that kind of shocked me. I'd never really seen that. He talked about how it brought out a lot of the flavors, which, I considered before, but had never really seen it done. So what we ended up doing after we talked about that a little bit as well, we ended up preparing a traditional meal, which consists of, it's kind of hard to see, but rice, pork with this kind of soy sauce, a lot of salt in it, a lot of salt in most of their food. We had tofu, spinach, and lettuce, which is up there. Then we had eggs and tomatoes. He fried up the tomatoes really well, added a lot of seasoning to it, and then ended up, kind of, taking that and laying it all out And another thing that I kind of saw, which I didn't expect, it's kind of served like a family style meal. And he said that's the way it traditionally is in China. Everyone gets their own plate of rice, but as far as the pork, the chicken, the vegetables, all that stuff, it's all on separate plates that's in the center of the table, and everyone just kind of picks off of it. So during the meal, we talked with his friends that were actually there with us. He had brought them in the car, brought it grocery shopping with us, stuff like that. So I got to talk to them too. They're all from the same city. Didn't know each other before they got here, but connected because they were in the same city. So we talked about that. We talked about how it was hard to connect for them getting here. And I understood that a lot. Coming from Rhode Island, I didn't know anyone coming here. I know one other kid from my town. We're not really close. So it's really just me on my own out here. I had to make friends, all that stuff. And he kind of felt the same way. So that was cool that we connected over that as well. So after we ate, we cleaned up, talked a little bit more about China, the culture, how he grew up, talked about schooling. He loves school, loves MSU. We talked about how he's actually fluent in 3 languages, which I didn't know. He's fluent in American, Chinese, and French, which was pretty cool. So yeah, the biggest takeaways for me really were that we actually connected on a lot more levels than I had initially anticipated, which was really cool. Another funny thing that we saw, or that he taught me, was how to use chopsticks. I'd never used chopsticks, so he taught me how to do that. He didn't even have forks there, so that was cool. As far as accommodation wise, I think there was a lot of room for me to change schemas about him. I guess my whole schema about Chinese food in general has changed. The way even he described it to me, and I asked him, Chinese restaurants are nothing like the food that they prepare in China, and he can vouch for that. You traditionally think of your chicken, your dumplings, and your rice. They do that, but it's not. There's a completely different range of variety that they add to it. The flavors are crazy, and I just thought it was so cool that I changed my schema about that because, I was able to help him create something that changed it. So I thought that was cool. So with that being said, this concludes my vlog 3, and thanks for watching.